Yes.
That's a long time for one coach in one place. And, it seems like this potential rift between Rodgers and McCarthy has been growing over the past 2 or 3 years. And you're not going to get rid of a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So what do? You probably end up getting rid of your head coach.
Right. And my view of McCarthy is, listen, I think he's a smart guy. I think he knows how to run a program. And I'm impressed with his game plans, but I don't think he adapts well in games. I think Rodgers is more, I think you can see as the game goes on, Rodgers is starting to figure stuff out and McCarthy isn't not necessarily starting to figure things out. And I think you see a little bit of gap there in football intelligence.
I agree with that. I also think that there is this sort of crutch mentality of, if we get a running game going, they say they want to establish it, and Aaron Jones looks like he could be a good running back, but eventually they always end up throwing so much in the second half. And I get it. You've got Aaron Rodgers there, but there are times where you have to play a little bit better clock management. And, frankly, there are times where he's far too conservative as well. I almost view this, the way McCarthy handles the offense, a bit like Norv Turner when he was with the Vikings, that he kind of has this offense that he's liked and he's been relatively successful with for many, many years, but he's not willing to adapt. And it seems like other offenses around the league are adapting, those that are at the top of the league right now, where McCarthy doesn't seem to have as many motions, as many, bunch routes and things that have really worked well for other teams around the league. And so, this year in Carolina, I think that Norv Turner has started to adapt and he started to learn that, what worked back in the 80s and 90s is not going to always work now. So I don't, to me, it feels like if there are, if the Packers miss the playoffs, I think it's McCarthy's last year.
I agree. And Patricia, I don't think knows what he's doing. Packers might be starting over. Bears and the Vikings might be the new key rivalry in this division because I think Nagy has some real offensive chops. They have Khalil Mack and a very good defense. This could be the defining rivalry for the next 5 years or so.
I think it is. I really do. I think this is the way we're going. Now, I say that without knowing, okay, so if Green Bay gets a new coach, there's a new philosophy, and they start to figure things out, and, Aaron Rodgers becomes this explosive quarterback like he has been for so many years, once again, they can enter the fold again. And maybe that other coach also, hires the right defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Although I do think that Mike Pettin has done a pretty good job with that defense in Green Bay.
I do too. I think it's starting to come on. Of course, we're saying that a day after they give up 31, but playing Brady and, New England in a night game there when Brady's healthy, it's just a tough assignment.
Yeah, and they had a lot of injuries in that game, and they have a lot of young defensive backs that I think eventually can be good, but aren't great yet. So, you start to get some pass rushers on that defensive line, maybe get a little younger in the linebacker core, move on from Clay Matthews, and things could turn around in a couple of years there if Aaron Rodgers is still playing at a high level.
And he probably will be, as long as he stays relatively healthy. All right, let's get a final thought from Tim on anything you want. Thanks again to WhizKids.tech, WHIZKIDS.tech. Let them be your chief technology ally. Twill in the Dining Galleria, Mississippi Pub, Beaver Island Brewing, BiteSquad.com, FixologyRepair.com, and Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Final thought, Tim.
Well, I mean, with Vikings bye week, for those that really love football, it's a great time of year for high school football. And so the Vikings are hosting a couple of quarterfinal state tournament games at TCO Stadium. So, I'd encourage people they want to kind of get a look at that Vikings facility and they haven't seen it yet, didn't attend training camp. You can head out there, watch some of the state quarterfinals. And I'd also encourage John Millay, who is with the Minnesota State High School League and has his high school podcast on this network, does a really good job of storytelling. And I love the story he told on a recent podcast about, a high school coach whose team, lost, and yet gave a great unifying post-game speech in the huddle and brought all the kids together. So, I mean, if you love just kind of that get back to your roots, high school football mentality and the camaraderie, the sportsmanship, all of that, John Millay does a great job of that storytelling.
I appreciate you mentioning that. John is really good, and he's such a good guy, and he's in a great role with the MSHSL.org. Thanks to Tim Yoder. Thanks to all of our sponsors and all of our listeners. Thanks for making this show the most popular across the network. We'll be back next week, and we may be doing a show from Twill in the Edina Galleria. If so, follow us on social media, and we will tweet and put it on Facebook and everything else where and when that show will happen. Once again, thanks to Brandon Morton. We'll talk to you next week.